It's Thursday, June 28th, 2007, and you're watching The Ointment. I'm Steve Tatham, and you know what? Secretly, I'm what Ann Coulter looks like without her wig. Today marks the anniversary of the signing of the Treaty of Versailles, which ended World War I and allowed millions of tourists to gaze at themselves in those mirrors. Our top story, let's talk about this ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court. It's the ruling in the case of Bong Hits for Jesus. That's the banner that was unfurled by a high school student out in front of his high school on public property, by the way, because he wanted to put up a sign as a joke that he thought may get him some TV time because the U.S. Olympic torch was going by. He was on public property, not even on a high school, but Clarence Thomas believes he shouldn't have the right to tell a joke. You know what? I had a really great punchline, but my lawyer has advised me not to use it. Turning to immigration reform, the U.S. Senate voted 64-35 to take up debate again on the immigration reform legislation. And you know what? 64. I didn't realize that 2/3 of the U.S. Senate wanted to be out of a job. Speaking of wanting to be out of a job, Republican Senator Richard Lugar spoke out against the President of the United States by saying on the floor of the U.S. Senate that the surge in Iraq simply isn't working. A long-term supporter of the President has turned against him. And you know what? I totally disagree with Senator Lugar. The surge in Iraq is working. In fact, the surge in Iraq has triggered a surge in the United States Senate against the President. So that's something, isn't it? Here's my favorite news story of the week. Vice President of the United States Dick Cheney has said that he's not part of the executive branch of government. He's not part of the executive branch of government. He's part of the legislative branch because he's president of the Senate. And he's saying this because he doesn't want to turn over secret papers to the National Archive. And by saying he's not in the executive branch, he says he has no obligation to turn over these papers. Interesting. You know, any high school civics student can tell you. Wait, I have a high school civics book right here. And it says that the executive branch of the U.S. government is made up of the President, Vice President, and other members of their administration. Here's my suggestion. The Vice President of the United States ought to go back to school and do a little learning. Perhaps the President needs a new educational reform plan called No Cheney Left Behind. And finally, everybody's favorite tranny, Ann Coulter, is at it again. That crazy gal. She said day before yesterday she wished, and I'm paraphrasing here, that John Edwards would be killed by terrorists. And then yesterday she was on Hardball with Chris Matthews, and Elizabeth Edwards called in and she asked Ann to stop making such personal attacks. And the exchange got heated, predictably. And then that video of the exchange was put on the John Edwards website to be used for fundraising. See how much we can achieve if we just reach across the aisles from right to left and work together. With that inspirational note, I'll say that's the ointment for another day. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Steve Tatham, and that's news. We'll catch you tomorrow, everybody.